Thank you very much, Christine. Good morning, everyone. I just also want to say that Christine and I have often paired up and collaborated in these sessions, in part because I tend to sort of start at the 30,000-foot level, providing information about the site landscape, and then Christine really hits it home by talking about the realities of running an investigative site and what it really means at an operating level, how it's translating into challenges that the investigative site is facing, and some of the ways that sponsors and CROs could do a better job of nurturing and stimulating a higher level of performance. So that's pretty much where we're going to start again today. I do want to preface my comments by reflecting on some of the comments that were made yesterday morning in the plenary session. And I don't know if many of you caught some of the remarks that were made during the panel that I moderated, but there was a tremendous allusion to the investigative side being, if you will, kind of a missing link here, that we talk so much about the importance of partnerships, and we really haven't looked very closely at one of the areas that I feel is perhaps the most inefficient, and that is how we can better leverage the relationship between the sponsor, the CRO, and the investigative site. And that's really where we're going to go today. I'm going to start with a bit of an overview of market conditions, because I believe that those very conditions have created an environment that has prevented sponsors and CROs from leveraging a higher level of performance, or generating and stimulating a higher level of performance from their sites. Often we think about the problem the other way around. As a sponsor, you often look at your sites and you wonder why they can't be more productive. Part of the message that I want to share, and that I think Christine will also hit home, is that many of those problems were created by sponsors themselves and ultimately by the CROs who are managing sites as well. I then want to transition to share with you some of the high-level characteristics of the emerging and evolving sponsor-CRO relationship and relate that to new relationships that could be formed between sponsors, CROs, and investigative sites. There are so many ideas and concepts that would translate very well into that environment, but there is also a fair amount of financial and operating risk that will be assumed by the sponsor in entering into some of these more strategic relationships. And that, if you will, is part of the answer to the question. Neither Christine nor I believe that relationships with sites today are strategic, and there's a lot of room to really offer that kind of approach and solution. I'm then going to turn it over to Christine, who's going to talk about the realities of operating a site today, and then relate that to ways that you, as sponsors, if you will, when we define our market conditions as the perfect storm. And here we're starting at a very high level. You can look at the commercial side of the pharmaceutical and biotechnology industry and then relate it to the R&D side. On the commercial side, it's really defined or characterized by such a high level of uncertainty, as well as the threat, the imminent threat of a loss of very, very productive patent-protected assets that will come out of the market. We're looking at close to $130 billion over the next 3 years in patent-protected sales that will simply go away. And if you look at on the R&D side, while the global economic conditions are really dictating a much tighter line on costs and an obsession with speed and efficiency, on the R&D side, we really are not seeing dramatic changes in an already difficult operating environment. Success rates continue to be very low. Only 1 out of every 7 drugs that enters clinical ever makes it into the marketplace. If we look at
of where we are as an industry, we get to look at this pretty little girl. So let me introduce you to her and tell you the lesson that I learned just this past Saturday. So this is my granddaughter. Her name's Kelsey, and she calls me Yaya. So we had a Kelsey day on Saturday, and she said, Yaya, what I want are a new pair of shoes. Little girls love new shoes. So I said, okay, fine, but you know, we're going to have to not go where we usually go. Let's see if we can find a little less expensive pair of shoes. So where do we go? Kind of doesn't matter where we went. Let me just tell you, for the next 2 hours, you drag a 6-year-old around from one discount store to the next, looking for the perfect pair of little shoes. After 2 hours, she looks at me as we're in the Payless and says, Yaya, these shoes feel like plastic, they hurt my feet, I don't like them, let's just go to Nordstrom's. Because we've been going to Nordstrom since she was 1 to buy shoes. So in we hike to Nordstrom's, and I get my cup of tea, and the woman pulls up Kelsey's profile, and Kelsey's showing her little gold shoes she loves, and the lady says, you know, Kelsey, your yaya bought you those Juicy Couture's last year, and they hurt your heels, and she had to return them. A half hour later, Kelsey with the balloon, Yaya with a cup of tea, 5 pairs of shoes in our bag, out we walk from Nordstrom's. She says to me, Yaya, let's only shop at Nordstrom's for shoes. And I said, that's right, Kels, because we're loyal and they know how we like to work. My love is the sites and the patients. It's the only place I've ever resided in my 20+ years in this industry by choice. Now here's some comments that I've heard at the partnership meeting. I will comment on the fact I don't hear a lot about the partnership with sites. I hear a lot of information, a lot of discussion about all the other partners. So look at, we have an unsustainable model. If I count how many times I've heard that in the last 2 days, unbelievable. The opportunity, look at how many shoe stores you have to go to compared to me. I only had to go to 4, but you're going to have to go to 12 to get one decent pair of shoes or one decent product. The interesting thing about the little shoe experience was, do you know the difference between going to Payless and Nordstrom's was $7? And yet I think sponsors shop sites and they think, oh, if I go to an experience site, it's going to be too expensive. You pay now or you pay later. And sometimes it's a lot more expensive to pay later. I love this prioritize your spend, which Peter said during one of the opening sessions. We get down to the end. There's a new sheriff in town, and then size does matter. CenterWatch ran a survey about what are the top challenges to the site. So here we go. Patient recruitment, no surprise, although I think it goes back to feasibility. If we would just get the feasibility right, the recruitment would probably be a lot easier. Profitability, competition, and then study complexity. So we ran a different survey. So we host this meeting called the Site Solution Summit, and we co-host it with ACRO, which is the Association for CROs. Because I do not believe for the 20 years that I sit and listen to sites lament about all the things that you do to them, I tell them all the time, you can be a victim or you can take control. You can make a difference at being a site. If I was a sponsor, I would be very hesitant in believing us sites. We lie a lot, we overinflate comments, we tell you we can deliver everything, and we seldom do, as Ken said, at least 50% of the time.